Chris said that he was talking to Clark, and
Yeah.
Clark said it mainly applies to the bigger counties like Miami.
Well, that was an initial draft he said
No,
he
there's
reviewed.
really a provision that affects us
Okay, it does.
when we deny something based on compatibility.
Okay.
It definitely affects how you do it.
Okay,
So that part of the bill does not affect us.
okay.
Anyone else have one?
Thank you.
I'm good, thanks, Patty, right now.
Yeah. Just in case.
David?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
It definitely affects Terry and Hyatt,
There's
because they didn't amend the comp plan
we
to.
had a meeting, so.
It's not a good excuse.
Anyone else, water, Neil?
When we get to, grows, grow zone, they're probably gonna have to add some stuff to that, to do with that bill.
So you think we'll still have a purpose then?
It's, I've read the bill, it's not,
It's not that bad.
I don't even think it's nearly as bad as the local, to be honest, or Senate Bill 180.
Really?
There may have been an early version of it that was pretty bad, but it, I mean, now that I've read the final wording, it's here.
Mhm.
You want a water?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it like. So Clark,
I don't think it's as bad as some of the press has made it sound. The part that's definitely gonna affect you all is the compatibility
You know, it's actually girls a lot, that's
requirements,
how you
but
know.
it's not like they prevent you from denying a project based on compatibility, just that it, you're gonna have to document the reasons more.
yeah, so I mean, Clark sent me an email late yesterday afternoon. He said this isn't super bad. He hadn't really looked at the House bill, but he did yesterday afternoon. His opinion is like you just said, it isn't that super bad.
It's not a complete preemption, so.
Yeah.
Do you think he's gonna get signed?
I think it'll get signed.
Yeah.
To me, the bigger problem with Florida system is they didn't fix Senate Bill 180, so that's a problem.
Mhm.
And then they expanded the local again, so.
They expanded it?
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Now it applies to any land owned by a church. And any land owned by a local government. Including schools. And schools.
Wow.
People who Chris was here.
So how would that work in the case of a school? I mean, if they've got land that's
I mean, they did
planned.
say that the school has to be an applicant, though, so you
Okay.
can't just plop
Okay.
something on the school ground without
Right.
the
Okay.
school's permission.
Mhm.
But in theory, they could put an apartment complex on school property regardless of what the zoning is. Now, the school district did that, we would sue the school district.
Mhm.
Poor Liam.
Is that public?
That's a
Public
promise.
and
You heard it first.
public and private?
I can send it right to you. There's the one.
I have to go back and look at the bill, I thought it was public school districts, but I have to look.
So somebody can build apartments on that church property in the city there, that they've been hold on to forever?
You mean our Congress? too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Here it comes.
there we go. But they gotta be an applicant.
I think I'll have to put my word out. Oh, the church has to be the applicant?
They have to be the applicant, right?
The
Or
church has to be.
A
you know, on the
co-applicant?
property, and the church has to remain on the property. If it's-
Okay.
I mean,
They have to remain on the adjacent property.
Okay, so it has to be a church there, it's not just
Yeah.
property owned by a church.
Yes, the church has to remain on the adjacent property.
And they have to be co-applicant, or they have to be the applicant?
I have to go back and look on that.
Hey, Terry.
One
Huh?
thing.
Okay, all
But you
right.
have to understand that our board's
Hang
not
in
gonna
there.
recognize the local and
About
the
you,
shape or
Brett.
form, so if somebody tried to apply for it,
Good.
we
This morning.
That's good.
deny it, and we'd end up in litigation.
Whenever you guys are ready, we'll be ready.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right, great. Hi, Liz.
Do you wanna put it up?
Okay. Let's see, we missing Matt.
Derek and Matt.
There,
Derek's
okay.
gonna be late.
Okay.
I guess we gotta go through the whole call to order thing, huh?
Okay.
I like, is this on?
Sounds like it.
Okay. So. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. We could stand for a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, could we have the roll call, please?
Mr. James Girardi.
Here.
Mr. Christopher Poole.
Here.
Mr. John Moody.
Here.
Mr. Matthew Muntz. Mr. Derek Hotlitz. Mr. William Devine.
Here.
Chairman Charles Gray.
Here. All right, so topics for discussion, Planning Commission Workshop, Pasco 2050 Comprehensive Plan Update. And you're gonna be doing the presentation?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the local planning agency, Nectarios Pitos, Planning Development Economic Growth Department. Today's local planning agency comprehensive plan update session will focus on the Pasco 2050 chapter, Pasco Serves, which is essentially the public facilities element of the comprehensive plan. This chapter, like all the chapters of the comprehensive plan, has been worked on by numerous industry stakeholders, the county attorney's office, and county departments, including in this case by the Planning Development and Economic Growth Department, Public Works, Pasco County Utilities, and Solid Waste, which were significant participants and contributors in the development of the chapter. In addition to this, the Planning Development and Economic Growth Department facilitated the reviews for these teams and industry-related stakeholders in order to capture their input and facilitate the development of the draft. Moreover, it bears noting that we received significant community stakeholder feedback on the question of public infrastructure needs within the county through thousands of public comments and surveys via the Pasco 2050 project website, as well as over 10 community workshops and open houses across the county over the last 2 years. We are presenting, 2.5 years. We are presenting the Pasco Serves chapter today, though our plan is not to go line by line through the chapter, but to present the big ideas for the chapter and provide you all with an overview of new policies that were added to the proposed comprehensive plan update and an overview of any deleted policies because either they were completed, made obsolete by state law changes, or were no longer necessary. With me today is Hyatt Mazzilli, Principal Planner with the Planning Services Division of the Planning Development and Economic Growth Department. Hyatt is the project manager for the comprehensive plan update. She will walk us through the chapter overview. You have with you in your materials the draft chapter, a redline version of it, the policy change tables that illustrate the various edits made in Pasco 2050 as compared against the current comprehensive plan, and the data and analysis information that supports the goals, objectives, and policies of the proposed chapter. If there are any questions, we will be available for that discussion, as well as our counterparts from Public Works, Pasco County Utilities, and Solid Waste. Finally, this is the first workshop in a series that we are planning for this spring, where we will be discussing the last chapters of the comprehensive plan. In the fall, we talked about the first few chapters, which were included Pasco Lives. Well, Hyatt will mention them, right? Upcoming sessions include discussions on Pasco Moves, which will be the transportation element, Pasco Invests, which is our CIP element, Pasco partners as it relates to the interlocal with schools. And lastly, Pasco Grows, which is the future land use element. The Planning Development Economic Growth Department has been working with various stakeholders through the winter until now to advance the work in these chapters for the comprehensive plan update and to be bringing them to you all for these spring workshops. And with that, I will hand the baton to Hyatt for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Planning Commission members. It's great to be with all of you today.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so before we jump into today's chapter update, I'd like to take a brief moment and step back and look at the big picture. Now, this slide should look pretty familiar to you all. So these are the 11 chapters that make up the Pasco 2050 Comprehensive Plan update. Each one focuses on a key topic that shapes our county, how it will grow, move, live, and thrive in the decades ahead. At our last workshop in November, we revisited 5 chapters: Pasco Adapts, Pasco Conserves, Pasco Plays, Pasco Works, and Pasco Partners. These were originally presented in August and in September, along with Pasco Lives. We walked through all the revisions that were made based on our comment, and today continues that same collaboration process. And I will be focusing on Pasco Serves, which is chapter number 5 in the comprehensive plan. So as with previous chapters, I will begin with an overview of the proposed tech changes and then open the floor for your feedback and questions. We also have with us today staff from the Public Utilities, Public Works, and Solid Waste Departments who have been instrumental in refining this chapter and will be available to assist with any questions. With that, let's see how Pasco serves our community. So the public facilities element of the existing comprehensive plan was renamed Pasco Serves. This chapter is mandatory per Chapter 163 of the Florida statutes. Pasco Serves provides the planning framework and long-term strategies needed to ensure that essential public facilities such as water, sewer, solid waste, drainage, and related infrastructure are available, coordinated, and adequate to support existing and future development while also protecting public health, welfare, and natural resources. So what's changed in this update? We have organized and streamlined the structure of the goals, objectives, and policies. The chapter now has 4 goals, 23 objectives, one of which is new, and 116 policies, including 11 new policies. We have made extensive housekeeping changes. We consolidated overlapping policies, deleted outdated policies, and also policies that are already addressed in the LDC or in other chapters of the comprehensive plan. We updated language for many policies to clarify intent and remove any redundancies. And we standardized the level of service statements, as well as moved a level of service tables and any policies related to the LOS to the Pasco Invests chapter, which covers capital improvements. The 2012 10-year water supply facilities plan was embedded in, or it is now embedded in the comprehensive plan, so we deleted that because it was really out of date. We also ensured that the goals, objectives, and policies are aligned with the newly updated and adopted stormwater management master plan. We also made edits per statutory requirements, particularly the requirement to evaluate the feasibility of septic to sewer conversion for large subdivision, which I will expand on in the next slide. Overall, these updates make Pasco Serves easier to navigate, more consistent, and better aligned with state requirements, and also with the overall long-term goals of our county. I'll walk you through the new policies next, and then we'll open it up for your questions. So this slide highlights the proposed new policies within the Pasco Serves chapter, and they are organized by topic. We'll start with the potable water. So there are 5 new policies in this section out of a total of 34 policies. Policy serves 1114 is not necessarily new, but we made a key update. We strengthened the existing language, which was carried forward from an existing policy, policy WAT 2.1.4. This update clarifies that central water and wastewater systems can be extended to serve the property surrounding the I-75 County Road 41 interchange, but these systems cannot be extended beyond that area to serve the Northeast rural. The intent is to limit unintended growth and, of course, preserve the rural character. Policy serves 1.3.1, adopts by reference the 2025-2035 10-year water supply facilities work plan, which means the work plan is formally incorporated into the comprehensive plan and can be updated independently without triggering a comprehensive plan amendment every time it gets updated. Next, we have policy 1.3.3. This is coordination for alternative water supply sources. This policy directs Pasco County to coordinate with Swiftmud, Tampa Bay Water, and other potable water suppliers to develop and implement alternative water supplies. Policy serves 1.5.6. Again, this one is not entirely new either. Language was added to ensure that nutrient loading and long-term environmental impacts are assessed and mitigated while continuing to promote expansion of reclaimed water uses in residential areas. And last,
Back up, which one?
sure, that's 1.5.6.
And then say again what the goal here is.
We added the last sentence, which pretty much says that, yes, we can encourage expansion or connection of reclaimed water to residential areas, but we need to ensure that nutrient loading and long-term environmental impacts are assessed and mitigated. That should be on page 14.
I found it.
Okay. Shall I continue? Continue? Okay. All right, next is policy 1.5.8. This is a new policy that reinforces the county's commitment to water conservation by implementing a range of programs and strategies. For example, we've added tiered water rates education campaigns, and Tampa Bay water rebates, as well as leak detection.
Can we explain what we mean by tiered water rates for potable water?
So tiered water rates is pretty much like tier 1. Residents will be paying based on their usage of the water. So there will be tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3.
Oh, okay, what does that mean?
I can have Garrett explain this one a little bit better.
That's not necessarily a change though, is it? Because I mean, we pay it on a tiered basis right now, I believe, for water usage.
I will defer to Garrett since this is his wheelhouse.
Okay.
Hey y'all, my name's Garrett Van Lent with Pasco County Utilities. I'm a policy analyst. So we have a tiered water system where consumers have certain sizes of pipe that go to their area. Some consumers use more water than others, like large industrial facilities, et cetera, et cetera. So it depends on how much water you're using, and the size of your pipe that goes to where you're using it depends on the rate that you pay. And all the counties do this, and we compare our tiers with other counties' tiers and how we can get the best value to our customers. So it's kind of a balance between consumption and cost.
Still not understanding.
Well, I can follow up with you with more information from our customer service team that could go into more detail, but that sounds good.
I'm trying to understand what a line size has to do with how much we pay for water.
Well, I don't know. Let me get back to you on it. I can give you some more detailed information. I'm not currently really in the know about that aspect of it, but I can talk to my people and get more information to you about that. I'm sorry, I don't.
Because my understanding is based on gallons used.
Yeah, it's like how much you use. Some people are really industrial, are using a lot of water, and some are just residential areas, so they pay different rates depending on that. And it depends on like the cost of getting that water to that place. Some facilities, you need to have more water in the pipe to get it to them. You don't want water age to be bad. So there's a complicated element to it, but this is a pretty standard across all counties, how they do it.
You're asking us to adopt a policy, but you can't provide us any detail on what or how this policy works.
Well, I can follow up. I'm not an expert on this personally. I'm here from representing a lot of utilities staff, but we can get you some information later on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should have probably asked him this, more of a general statement, kind of, I've got experience with neighbors in our neighborhood that have widely varying utility rates for water. So leak detection is a pretty important process of that. And yeah, I've sensed in some of my neighbors a bit of frustration with kind of being able to access that. So it's more just kind of a broad statement than anything. But yeah, leak detection it should be a big part of this.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Mr. Moody's statement basically is that it makes it difficult for us to approve something if we don't really understand it.
Right.
And, if we don't have somebody here that can explain it, then it's, how do we vote to approve it? So that's.
We can definitely get back to you with more explanation of the tiered water system.
Right, is this gonna be like prior chapters where this is the first draft and then you're gonna bring back final versions later?
We can follow, we are on a tight deadline right now, but we can definitely follow the same process that we had been doing. We'll gather your comments and then refine and make the edits and then bring it back with other chapters.
Demonstrate the change.
Right, just like we did with the other ones.
So,
Because otherwise, I'm not sure how Mr. Moody's question would be answered later.
Okay, we will come back. So we'll gather as much comments as we can from you today, and then we'll make the edits and then come back with
The other thing that
another version.
note is at the outset of the presentation,
Okay,
you said you moved the level of service standards all to
Pasco Invest, yes.
chapter, but these things need to be presented together. We're adopting policies, we're looking and evaluating policies regarding the provision of utility services, but there's no discussion of what these level of service stand, we're gonna talk about those in a vacuum somewhere. It doesn't seem to make much sense.
That was the intent of bringing both of the chapters at the same time, but we are still doing other revisions to Pasco Invest. So, and county attorney has not reviewed Pasco Invest just yet. So what we can do when we come back with this chapter, we will make sure that we have Invest with it. That way you can go back and forth and see the edits that were made. And I will point out, when I'm presenting Invest, I will point out the policies that have been moved from other chapters to that chapter, so it's more clear and transparent for everyone.
Okay.
Okay.
Hyde, are you done with your presentation, or are you still going?
It's up to you if you want to discuss more the potable water.
Because Mr. Moody asked a question, but I wasn't sure if you were done yet.
No, I'm not done yet.
Okay, then go finish.
There's more. I have 3 more sections to cover.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so the next section is about wastewater. There are 4 new policies out of 30 in the wastewater section. Policy serves 2.1.8. That's the flood-proofing of sanitary sewer facilities. This policy was originally proposed in the Pasco Adapts, and they're the resilience goal. But Planning Commission members recommended that we move it to this chapter because it's more appropriate in this chapter. So just to refresh your memory, this policy directs directs the county to update utility standards to require floodproofing of new sanitary sewer facilities. Next is 2.2.6. This is the subject to sewer conversion feasibility policy. This policy was added to comply with the recent statutory requirement to evaluate the feasibility of converting from septic to sewer within a 10-year planning horizon for development of more than 50 lots and more than one on-site sewage treatment and disposable system per acre. The next policy is 2.2.7. This policy pretty much links the feasibility findings from the septic to sewer conversion to the 5-year capital improvement plan. So septic to sewer projects are scheduled and funded. This pretty much closes the planning to implementation gap. 2.2.8 is a brand new policy that allows the county to consider distributed wastewater treatment units, provided they meet environmental standards. This was added to ensure consistency with the state law following the enactment of Senate Bill 796. And we have a definition, a proposed definitions of these distributed wastewater treatment units. Next section is the solid waste. We have 2 new policies out of a total of 17. Policy serves 3.1.4. This new policy is to maintain and update the solid waste master plan. Policy serves 3.3.4, excuse me. This was added to ensure continued administration of small quantity generator program to keep the program active and aligned with broader waste management and public health goals. And the last section is section about the drainage and groundwater recharge. There are 2 new policies out of 35 policies in this section. Serves 4.4.3, new language was added for the expansion of the county's aquatic weed control program and also ensuring FWC coordination. And then we have policy serves 4.4.5. This policy directs the county to develop low impact development design standards to reduce runoff volumes and improve water quality.
Why are we doing that?
To reduce runoff volumes. It's something that is being encouraged, and also a lot of our neighboring counties are doing it. The LID standards, they're developing standards.
Do you have any proof that they work?
I do not.
Exactly.
The LAD standards.
There
Yeah.
seems to be this mistaken belief that we can put a rain garden in your front yard and I'm gonna solve 100-year flooding problems because of a bunch of people that believe in a green fantasy.
Yeah.
Well, that's the truth of it. And I actually have a lot of expertise in this area, so if anybody wants to get in here and debate me about these low-impact development issues in stormwater, I'll show you otherwise.
Okay. So you don't agree with having this policy to develop these standards at some point?
Well, one, it's been a policy that's been in the comp plan for a while. We've got, it's embedded in the land development code. It encourages low-impact development.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't fit with our new statewide stormwater quality rules.
Okay.
Okay, it doesn't fit with our flood mitigation rules. And it hasn't been proven to work.
Okay.
So, John, what's your suggestion then?
Well, I'm suggesting that we approach stormwater from a position of reality.
4.4.5.
And what I don't see in here is a stormwater expert coming to tell me about how this is going to cure our stormwater woes. Or I open up Facebook every day and see thousands and thousands of residents complaining about flooding.
The stormwater engineer had a conflict from 9 to 10, and she will be joining us at 10 o'clock via Teams to answer and contribute to this discussion. So Joyce Gulas will be available shortly.
So we'll come back to that when she's online. Is that all right, John?
Well, I guess we don't really have a choice if we don't have anybody here to talk about it. I'm here to talk about it.
It was something that was in the resilience plan, so.
Rearranged my schedule to get here today.
Mr. Moody, do you recommend that we just strike it? That we don't need it? It's new policy. It's not something that's existing in this chapter.
Can I ask a question? Just
Go ahead.
what would low-impact development design standards look like? I know you don't have the design standards now, this is promoting it, but what is something like that? What would that look like? What kind of features is that?
Things like what John was saying.
There are several examples that I can pull up and show you, Liam.
Okay. Only because I think about like lot coverage. If you're thinking like on a small scale for a residential lot, right? Somebody pays a big giant driveway and then puts a pool and then has pavers on the side and then starts really loading up their lot. Is that something that these design standards would address, or is it just having some sort of green rain bed or flower garden that is supposed to soak up the water?
That's pretty much it. It's more about permeable pavements, green roofs, tree preservation, ensuring that we have live-in shoreline. So it's,
Green roofs. Good, let's talk about green roofs.
okay.
Okay? So I plant a garden on top of my roof,
Yes.
and it rains on my garden and the roof, and the water went where?
Well,
Where'd the water go?
So in the green roof scenario, the water is collected on non-residential structures. So you're not gonna really put a green roof on a resident, typically, you're not gonna
I
put
don't care what roof it is. When it lands on a roof, where'd the water go?
the water is collected within the basin and retained on the roof and then slowly dispersed into the sewer system. So it's a retention strategy. It doesn't keep the water on the roof, because that would be a bad idea.
So it's a detention strategy. not
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yes, a
detention
detention strategy.
And that's where the fallacy comes in. It's not didn't reduce the amount of water going into the drainage system.
Correct.
It added a bunch of weight to your roof.
It adds weight to the roof, that's correct, but it retards the water from entering the general stormwater system. And some water is consumed by whatever the plants are there, but we're not talking heavy volume of
Mass
consumption.
is not created nor destroyed, so the water didn't just disappear.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about, the fallacy of low-impact development. Liam, I just wanted to correct something. What you were referring to is not lot coverage, it's the impervious surface ratio. And I would point out that as we're cramming 3,000 square foot houses on 45-foot wide lots, and then putting swimming pools and sidewalks and driveways, and I guess maybe later this afternoon, boats in their driveways too, that yes, we're creating stormwater problems. You know, when I was a kid, Timber Oaks didn't flood. We didn't have to pay millions of dollars to dig out the golf course to control the stormwater runoff. It was after we let all those people build their 4-car driveways, add the swimming pools, add the brick pavers along the side of the house, and basically cover their lot to 95% impervious surface, that all of a sudden we started having these drainage problems. Yet we don't have an impervious surface ratio embedded into our land development code to stop these problems. Rather than pursue the fallacy of low-impact development, how about we adopt a policy that will actually fix the stormwater regulations that are now more than 16 years out of date in our land development code? In our land development code, our stormwater regulations say that our rules are the same as the rules that were in place at SwiftMud in December of 2011. It's 2026, and the rules have changed 5 times since then. When are we gonna fix that instead of dreaming up fallacies?
The land development code update follows on the heels of the comprehensive plan update, so that's coming in within the next year or so. The other thing that we should mention about low impact development is that it's not totally a volume issue. It's there are a number of issues that are covered under low impact development. I think in most residential properties, you're probably going to see things like bioswales and or rain barrels taking place. On non-residential properties, you might see larger activities. The low impact isn't necessarily a stormwater volume retention detention question. It's also an effluent management, surface
Terry,
debris
I don't
control
mean to be
question.
I don't.
No,
But I've heard the rain barrel a fallacy for years,
well,
and it defies common logic. Go measure, multiply an inch of rainfall over the area of a roof, and let me know if you can fit it in a 55-gallon drum, because you can't.
you can't, but what I was gonna mention with regard to rain barrels is that it isn't a stormwater volume question. It's how much reclaimed water am I gonna spend on my flower beds in front of my house? So it's an offset to the homeowner, low impact to the homeowner at that point, to say, I'm gonna use my drip hoses to water my flower bed instead of pull on the county reclaim system, which apparently has been having some outages lately, and not have to pay the extra price associated with the gallons used during that. So there's a couple different aspects of low impact. To the extent that we can better tune the land development code to address the stormwater volume, I agree with Mr. Moody, that must happen. That's a necessity. There are other low impact things that can influence other elements of suburban life that can also be low impact. I do think that the language presented here can perhaps be adjusted so that it doesn't say shall develop low impact development design standards.
So, can I just make a recommendation just to get
Yeah.
past this?
Yes.
Because we haven't even let Haya finish her presentation yet. I actually thought we were holding questions and comments until after she finished her
Right.
presentation. But can we just change it to say shall develop, to just say shall evaluate the efficacy of? That way we're just.
Yeah, you can do that.
We'll evaluate this, whether they're good or bad.
Well, we don't have standards to evaluate their efficacy, so we need to develop.
Well,
in
it
general.
works, yeah.
Oh, that's all it's gonna say is we're gonna see whether they work or not. If Mr. Moody's right, they don't work, then we don't do anything. If
Right.
stormwater department thinks they work, then we do something, but you okay with that, Mr. Moody? If it just says evaluate the efficacy of them?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think John's comment about Lid being directly in opposition to the new stormwater regs is pretty important too. We can talk about that more offline, just for my own education.
Yeah.
I'd like to
okay.
talk more about that. We don't need to spend that time now.
Ours.
Continue.
Okay, so our stormwater engineer, Joyce Gulas, is online right now. If Mr. Moody has any questions. Joyce, can you hear me?
Well, since we have a lot to get through with this chapter.
Okay.
Unless somebody has a problem with just changing develop to evaluate the efficacy of it, I'd rather not have a
Discussion.
2-hour debate about the efficacy of them here.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I am on the last slide. This is pretty much just showing the proposed new definitions in the chapter. And this pretty much concludes my presentation or overview of the Pasco Serves updates. Now I'll open the floor for any additional discussions.
I have a question, but I don't.
Yeah. Go ahead, David.
So hi, policy 2.4,
Objective 2.4?
objective 2.4,
Okay.
I'm sorry. It says limit urban sprawl by regulating the provision of public wastewater service in rural low-density residential areas, AGR, and then it says lands in RDR, and then it says, and lands with a minimum density of 3 DU STR. I'm not understanding the inclusion of the third one. Like, why is STR considered sprawl?
Which policy, David? I'm sorry.
This is objective serves 2.4, page, it's my page 24 of 62 on the red, I'm looking at the red line one.
It's on page 23 of 61. On the, are you on the red line, Mr.
I'm on the red
Holstein?
line, but
Okay.
I don't,
Page
I'm on-
23 of 61.
I,
So,
it's objective 2.4.
Yeah. I think that's organized like that to facilitate existing utility policies. The way this policy is written is that it's capturing all of the agricultural densities, the Res 1 density, and then the density between 1 and 3. So right now in the comprehensive plan, I believe you must hook up to utility at 3. Between 1 and 3, you have the option to do well and septic, or hook up if the utilities are available. And then less than 1, you may do well and septic, basically. So this is just trying to capture that range between 1 and 3.
I'm reading it literally, Terry. It says limit urban sprawl
Mhm.
by regulating this. So I'm gonna regulate where I put wastewater in the following. So I'm saying I don't want to have urban sprawl. So I don't want to have public wastewater in these land use categories because they're going to create sprawl. That's how I'm reading this. First one I get, AGR. You don't want to have public wastewater in AGR because it would create sprawl. RDR I get, although I have a question later about RDR, but for sake of this policy, I get it.
Yeah.
It's the third one I don't get because how is the provision of public wastewater in lands with a minimum density of 3 DU per acre creating sprawl?
I think it's that. And lands designated as RDR.
It doesn't say between 1 and 3.
I'm evaluating the question at the moment. I'm just trying to look at the next policy. Which one are you?
2.4.3.
Couldn't it just say, and lands with a density less than 3 dwelling units per acre?
Well, that's a bigger question because we don't have grows in front of us. I don't even know if we have such a land use category anymore. That's it. Do we?
The res 3s?
Well,
RDR
we
goes
haven't
up
heard
to.
grows yet, so I don't even know what land use categories we have left anymore, but
No.
do,
We have presented the flus.
So RDR goes up to 2.9. 0.2 to
0.21 to 2.9 is the new rural density residential future land use.
RDR goes up to what now?
2.9.
2.9. So this policy could actually say, including AGR, flu designated areas.
What
and
does STR go to?
SDR picks up from 3 and it climbs to 18.
Okay, well, there's no way that's sprawl.
Correct.
So why is it in this policy?
Because there was a caveat written in here to capture up to 3. So properties that are designated SDR 3 in the comprehensive plan would be part of that cloud of uses. But I think what happened here was last summer the workshops and open houses identified that RDR should actually go up to 2.9. And so this policy could probably end at RDR, period. And the second half of the sentence here could probably just go away, since it goes now to 2.9. That's not sprawl.
Okay, well, yes, I think it should end at RDR, but then I have a follow-up question, because I don't think there's any way SDR should be included in this policy.
I think we would delete it from this policy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my follow-up question relates to RDR. So I'm not entirely clear. I guess I need somebody to explain to me in English when we are requiring or allowing water and sewer in the RDR flue.
If the density is.
Because the policies kind of go back and forth.
Yeah.
On that category, and so I want you to explain it to me in English so I can figure out whether the policies match what you're telling me in English.
Yeah. So if the density is between 1 and 3, the actual density of the development is going to be between 1 and 2.9, I should say, to keep it within RDR.
Just say their flue is RDR.
Yeah.
Okay.
RDR.
Someone comes in, they're RDR, and we have to decide whether they're allowed to have central water and sewer.
Yes.
What's gonna guide that decision?
Can you find me the utility policy that has? No, there's the existing utility policy that talks about the connections, the required
2.4.2,
connections.
isn't it?
Can you find me that one? So Hyatt's finding the policy number because I don't know it off the top of my head.
It's 2.4.2 and 2.4.3, correct?
Is that it?
Yeah, well, 2.4.3 to me is clear. Okay, that's when you're 3 or higher, you should have it, okay? When you're when you're AGR, you're really not supposed to have it. Okay? It's this area in between RDR where I'm not as so clear. And I realize I'm reading what 2.4.2 says, I just don't know what it means, and so I'm asking Terry to explain it to me in English. Because I don't know I'm reading it, I've read it 5 times, and I don't know what it means.
So as I noted, the current policy is that if you are between the densities of 1 and 3, you have the option to connect if the utilities are present. So if you have RDR, which climbs up to the highest density of RDR is 2.9. If you're between 1 and 2.9 and utilities are present, you may connect according to the current comprehensive plan. And so that's what we're essentially working toward here, with the exception of the Northeast Rural area in Pasco County, where there the density in RDR is capped at 1. So you would never fall within that 1 to 2.9 range in those locations.
Okay, so part of the problem is since we have not considered grows, I don't know these rules. So in RDR, this goes to Commissioner Moody's point, considering these things in isolation.
Well, we did present the future land use categories last summer, in the summertime, right before the open houses.
Okay, well.
So,
You memorized it, right?
What? All right, so RDR is capped at 1 in northeast rural, but everywhere else it's 1 to 3?
1 to 2.9.
1 to 2.9.
1.21 to 2.9.
Can I ask a dumber question? So David, I understand where it seems like we have policies that are diametrically opposed to each other. In one policy, I'm going to study and then encourage septic to sewer conversions for places where the density is 1 dwelling unit or less per acre. And at the same time, I'm going to limit providing sewer service to low-density development. Why in the world would I ever stop somebody from going to centralized wastewater treatment? And I have another policy over here that actually encourages the septic to sewer conversion. This doesn't seem to make any sense to me.
Well, the septic,
Septic sewer, so
I understand not encouraging sprawl development, although I have my own personal opinions on what really constitutes sprawl. But that just doesn't seem to make any sense. In one policy, I'm going to get you off the septic and put you on the sewer if you live on more than an acre. And in the other policy, I'm going to limit you from connecting to the sewer if you live on an acre.
I can speak on that, Mr. Moody. So in the septic to sewer conversion, that's in the Basin Management Action Plan area, which is the Weeki Wachee Basin, and that's like a state mandated situation. House Bill 1379 says that we need to look at a plan to connect these 1 acre or a lot less in just the certain BMAP area. And I think this other policy you're talking about maybe more for more rural areas that aren't in the BMAP, that aren't covered by the septic to sewer policy.
I don't care about the BMAP area.
Well, we do, and we need to
Well,
control that.
I understand
Yeah.
you need to comply with the BMAP. You're insinuating that a septic system that's not in the Weeki Wachee BMAP isn't a problem, and at the same time, I'm encouraging aerobic treatment units, and I don't discourage the aerobic treatment units. I'm just saying, these policies are diametrically opposed to each other. Why would we do this?
I think it may be an issue with
Encourage
connecting.
anybody on a septic system if they can get onto sewer to get onto it.
It's just there's not a lot of places where it's feasible. We have septic sewer feasibility studies identify certain areas that is more feasible than others, but we're talking about multi-millions of dollars CIPs to get water mains out to some of these rural areas, and it just gets to be a big deal.
I understand that, and maybe it won't prove to be feasible, but why would we have policies against it?
Now we're trying to comply with the BMAP for that one septic sewer policy. That's what I know.
I understand complying with the BMAP. I 100% support complying with the BMAP. I have to lecture my clients every day about complying with the BMAP when they don't want to pay the $10,000 for the aerobic treatment unit. And I have to remind them how we all like to go kayaking and down the Weeki Wachee River.
Do your clients live in Spring Hill? Because we have a septic upgrade incentive program that would pay $10,000, just so you know, just so you can talk to your people about it.
Lots of those.
Yeah, good.
Well, Commissioner Moody, I'm fine getting to your conflict, but I hadn't really gotten my question answered about the applicability of 2.4.2. I'm not saying that answers your question, but I'm not sure that 2.4.2.2 reads the way that Terry just said in English, because you're basically saying that if you're an RDR, if the utilities are there, you get the right to connect. If they're not, we won't extend them. Is that what you're saying?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
What you told me was that if you're an RDR, that if the utilities are available, you have the right to connect to them. If they're not, we're not going to extend them to you. Is that what that's not what 2.4, 2.2 says, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. The confusing part of
Yeah.
2.4.2 is that it says, only if the proposed service is consistent with the comp plan. Well, this is the comp plan. So I don't know what part of the comp plan I'm supposed to look at to figure out whether
Yeah.
it's consistent with the comp plan.
So if you have, require the provision of lands with a minimum density of one, doesn't, only one, so if you're in, if you're in an RDR area, where the overall density is less than one, we're not going to extend sewers to you. And then if you, or utility, I should say. If you are one, and there are some areas that are currently Res 1 on the map, like along Little Road, for example, there's obviously utilities in the West Market area present. There could be an option to extend utilities into those neighborhoods where the density is likely 1 and greater, for RDR. And then of course, as in the Northeast Rural, which maybe we should just, instead of saying goals, objectives, and policy, just reference that policy from GROWS. RDR is capped at 1, and there's general discussion among other GROWS policies to preserve the agricultural character of Northeast Rural by not extending the utilities and thereby creating temptations to sprawl into Northeast Rural.
Okay, let's put Northeast Rural aside, because I realize it has its own rules. Let's just forget about, just talking about outside of Northeast Rural. I guess part of my other confusion is this policy says with a minimum density of 1, designated on the future land use map as RDR. Well, you just told me that RDR is not a minimum density of 1. It's a minimum density of 1 to 2.9.
No, I think that. Minimum density.
So I wasn't sure if this was intended to only apply if it has an actual density of 1.
So the existing policy was referenced in Res 1, residential 1 dwelling unit per gross acre.
Right.
And then since RDR spans from 0.2 to 2.9, that's why we put that minimum density of 1 per acre, or 1 unit per acre.
Okay, but RDR, you just told me allows more than 1.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, that seems to be internally inconsistent to say lands with a minimum density of 1 designated on the future land use map as RDR. If it's designated on the future land use map as RDR, it wouldn't have a minimum density of 1.
Minimum actual density.
Actual on the ground density.
Yeah, on the ground density, it's supposed to be.
But I think we're losing the forest from the trees here. I think the policy should match what you're actually trying to achieve. Like, I don't know what you're actually, that's why I asked you to explain it to me in English first, because I don't think this entire policy matches what, I wanna know what the rule is going to be for RDR in general. I mean, I get when it's above RDR, okay, I get it. Okay, when it's SDR and higher, 2.43 is very clear for me. When it's SDR and higher, you have to have public water and sewers, okay? If it's AGR, 2.41 is very clear, okay? I think I'm clear on what happens in Northeast Rural. I am not at all clear when you're outside of Northeast Rural and you're an RDR, whether you are or are not required to connect to water and sewer. Because I don't know what this policy means.
Permit or require, so if I have you may connect, if
Yeah,
no
it-
connections.
That's correct. So,
And part of the confusion here is because you guys, you played with the land use category. Okay, so this policy was originally a Res 1 requirement,
Mhm.
and now it's not.
Because Res 1 is RDR, is within the RDR flu.
Right, but when you played with land use category, I'm not sure if the policy still applied with this higher density under the land use category.
Right, which is hence the call out on the one dwelling unit per acre. So so what's happening here is the inverse of what we've been dealing with. For a long time, we've dealt with the gaps between Res 1, Res 3, Res 6. And we come forward, and for somebody to do a 4.5 dwelling unit per acre development, they had to jump all the way up to Res 6 in order to be able to do that. And the new FLUs are proposing to close the gap so that everybody understands what range we're actually operating in. Hence RDR being from 0.21 up to 2.9 now, because we're trying to close the gap between AGR to Res 1 and then Res 1 to Res
But I
3.
think the current policy was trying to create this sort of limited exception where you would allow water and sewer in Res 1. And it seems like it was mostly focused on maybe conservation subdivisions and
rural character areas.
rural character areas, but, which I don't even know what those are, but putting that aside, now you've lumped RDR into it, which goes up to 2.9, and I'm not even sure that policy still applies when you're dealing with 2.9. Or whether it should
No.
still apply at 2.9.
Well, it would apply.
Yeah.
If you have a density of 2.7, you're permitted or required, based on the existing language of the comprehensive plan, to connect. So, in closing the gaps on the future land use map, you have to actually look at the actual density on the ground now. And so when you're looking at a development, what's the actual density, if it's existing? What's the actual density of that development in order to determine whether or not it's gonna fit
Okay,
this
but-
policy? Therefore, you have to have that minimum
We're the
one.
planning commission, we don't have always have density on the ground. Okay, we have proposals that come to us.
Correct.
And we need to know if it's RDR, or somebody's asking for RDR, whether it's going to have, either allowed to have or required to have water and sewer.
Right. So if that development is coming in and they're requesting an RDR flu amendment, an amendment to
Right.
RDR flu,
And it's vacant land.
it's vacant land, and they
So-
come in and it happens to be two point
So I gotta
three.
be able to look at a policy and say yes or no as to whether they're required to have water and sewer.
Yes.
What's the answer?
If the density is 2.3, let's say, then yes, and it's available to them, they have to connect. If the density is actually
Well,
0.89,
It's speculative RDR. They're just asking for RDR.
well, if it's speculative, then they would be informed that if your ultimate density is going to be less than 1, then you can do well and septic. If it's gonna be greater than 1, you have the option to connect if it's available to you. That's current comprehensive plan policy.
But we won't know until they actually go to pull a building permit at that point, right?
Well,
Or site
you'll know at site
Or
plan.
site permit,
You'll know at site plan.
unless they rezone to something that allows that range in RDR that wouldn't require a site permit.
Yeah,
Okay, if
No,
that's the
no.
rule, what you just said in English,
right.
that's what I think the policy should say. Cause that's not what this says. You're basically saying that if the actual density that they achieve in RDR is less than 1, then it's not gonna be on, it's gonna be on well and septic. If the actual density is gonna be greater than 1, and the water and sewer is available within some, I don't know what available, is there some distance that it's gotta be available?
Well, yeah, that's in the comp plan already.
identified distance for the connection?
Yeah, that's up there and.
Well, then you should refer to wherever that,
That's
just
that
wherever
table
that policy
with the
is that
ERU.
refers to that.
That's in table serves 1, and they're 113, page 6.
So reference table serves one.
Yep.
That's potable water, sewers, table serves too.
Yes.
Okay.
What I'm basically asking you to do is rewrite this policy so that it has objective criteria for when somebody who's an RDR has to connect to water and sewer.
Okay. We can reword that.
And I probably would remove the reference to conservation subdivisions and rural character areas, because unless you feel like those need to stay in there, I don't see the purpose of that.
Yeah, that's, we'll take a look at it.
I understand why why that's in there for the Northeast Pasco area, but I don't know why it's in there for that policy.
Sorry.
Okay, so now we can probably get to Mr. Moody's point. What was the policy that you said was in conflict with this? Mr. Moody?
The septic sewer
I
conversion?
was making the point that in another policy, we're going to evaluate and promote septic to sewer conversions.
But which
in the-
policy number is it? I just don't know. 2.6?
2.2.6.
But in the other policies, we're going to prohibit people doing 1 acre or more density per dwelling unit per acre density, 1 acre or less density from connecting to sewer. They seem like they are diametrically opposed policies. Either we want the people off the septics and on the sewer, or we don't want them on the sewer.
This is feasibility, so referring to that special area.
And I don't think, why would we ever have a policy that would limit a developer from connecting to a sewer? If they want to spend the money and bring it in and connect them to the sewer, why would we stop them? We seem to have this belief that if we allow you to connect to water and sewer, that means you're gonna develop at a density greater than we want you to or may want you to. Well, you have the ability through your future land use categories to determine density. I don't know what that has to do with utilities.
I think it's, at least from observation over the years, I think the fear, if we can use that word, is that if the utility is present, then there's, then the market will essentially demand a flue upgrade to take advantage of the existing utility. I think that's been the fear of the various communities in Pasco.
Well, then we'll have to decide as a county whether we wanna sit here and give people flue upgrades. Because that's what we come here every 2 weeks for.
I mean,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
legally, I'm not sure that that's a conflicting policy, because it just says we'll consider the feasibility of it. It doesn't say we're going to do it, but
Okay, so you're gonna consider the feasibility of it, and then you got another policy that would prohibit it. So then why are we wasting time considering the feasibility if we've got another policy that would prohibit it to begin with? And again, I'm not sure other than somebody's irrational.
And Mr.
fear.
Marie, to answer your question, the reason why we are considering it is we're mandated by law to consider it. That's the reason. Yeah.
Okay, well then what I'm suggesting is that we might want to drop the policy that says we won't allow you to connect to sewer. Why would we ever want to discourage somebody from connecting to a central sewer system?
My understanding is there could be conveyance issues, there could be wastewater treatment capacity issues, there could be standardization issues. I know that, not only do you need to connect somebody to sewer, but you need to have lift stations that carry their waste all the way to the.
Now you're talking about wastewater treatment capacity issues. Okay, so if I'm close to town, I can put in 24 or 36 dwelling units to the acre? How does that affect the wastewater treatment plant capacity? Whereas if I'm out where John lives, where people live on more than 1 acre, how many possible homes am I connecting to it at that point to affect the wastewater treatment capacity? It doesn't even make any sense.
Well, to answer your original question, the reason why we're considering feasibility is we're mandated to do that, so.
I
Yeah.
absolutely think we should look at the feasibility. What I'm saying is we shouldn't have the policy which is the antithesis in that we're not going to allow you to connect at densities of 1 acre or less.
You
Well,
consider
Is that necessary?
I'm not sure that he hasn't rewritten 2.4.2 yet, so we don't know what it's gonna say. But I don't know that the intent of 2.4.2 is to prohibit connections. The intent of 2.4.2 is to say, when are you required to have connections to central water and sewer? Like at what levels of density is that a requirement?
Yes.
I don't know that it's intending to get to, or doesn't necessarily create a prohibition on connections.
No, it doesn't.
Well, we're doing that in the northeast rural area.
Okay, that's a different policy, but,
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
And maybe this is, a question for David. Suppose in policy serves 2.2.6, feasibility study is conducted. It's titled septic to sewer feasibility study. And a particular area is identified to do the septic to sewer conversion. And then you have these other policies like Mr. Moody is potentially identifying here, like 2.4.2 and others. Would we say that because the study has identified that this particular area needs a septic to sewer conversion, that it's consistent with policy serves 2.2.6 and thus consistent with the comprehensive plan?
Okay.
Not necessarily ignoring the other policies, but understanding that those policies are applicable on a countywide, and here we have a very specific and particular.
I mean, I think to make them internally consistent, you'd probably would have to add an exception in the Northeast Rural one for connections required by policy 2.2.6.
And the other thing I'd point out about all this is we're talking about density. Since we're allowing ADUs in any residential district, then the density is really double what we're talking about. Even though we created this policy that your ADU doesn't count against density, the actual real density on the ground will potentially be up to double what the future land use category allows. So now when I'm on my 1 acre and I go build my ADU, now I've got 2 septic systems on the acre. I don't want to discourage those people from connecting to sewer. And if we actually want them to construct the ADUs, a lot of them are gonna go out and find out that they actually don't have enough room on their property to put the well and the septic and meet all the required separations. And we would encourage them to connect to sewer. I understand that may be a cost for them. I just don't wanna prohibit anybody from doing it.
I don't think there's a prohibition in 2.4.2. There may be situations in which we need the utility extension unless it's required for them to connect. I don't know what kind of scenario that might, what's a good example of that kind of scenario, but I don't think anything's necessarily prohibiting them, barring discussion on Northeast Rural. And there's not that many RDR areas outside of Northeast Rural and the rural character area, which is largely RDR or Res 1. The only other major RDR areas in the county are located on Little Road, just south, Little Road and Jasmine and that whole area there. And then Aaron Cutoff and kind of by Aaron Cutoff and Connors and Boulevard north along Aaron Cutoff. That's another major RDR area. If we have the map, yeah, we could show the map really quick.
Well,
So-
there's a lot of places that,
But those are locations where utilities are present.
there's a lot of places where regardless of the designation, the density on the ground meets the definition. For instance, where I live, my future land use is Res 3, but everybody lives on a lot that's 1 acre or larger,
Right.
all right? And all the lots are built on, so we can have the Res 3 under it all we want, when it's really Res 1
Yeah.
in actuality.
I think if you were in a scenario in which, let's say you had SDR flew over you, but your actual on-the-ground density, the development that you live in is like 2.1, just because that's how it got developed. You could still connect, no problem, because you're not RDR, you're an SDR. And even if you were SDR and you had 10 acres and the one house on it, because you are in the SDR, which means you're likely in the urban service area somewhere, you could connect.
I bring this up because if you listen to the commission, they're now floating the idea that maybe we need to be done with 45-foot wide lots and we need to have a lot more acre lots. They're looking at it for tax purposes, but I'm not sure that we don't necessarily want those subdivisions on sewer. And that's all I'm getting at, is I want to make sure that we don't have a policy that discourages or prohibits anybody from connecting to a sewer. And I don't care where they are, whether they're in the northeast rural area or the urban core.
Usually there's a circle, but to like highlight. It's hard to see the, okay.
And even though, I don't know why we've come up with this new term, distributed wastewater treatment units, we've always known as aerobic treatment units.
Do it now.
Even though they'll get 80% removal, that's still not advanced wastewater treatment plant standards, so we're getting a much better.
Mr. Mooney, so distributed wastewater treatment units aren't aerobic treatment units. They're like a new type of wastewater treatment facility where you have a bunch of septic tanks that are tied into a single sort of functioning distribution system. We haven't seen any in the state of Florida yet, but 2 years ago the legislature passed a bill that would allow this to be expedited, the building of these. Our understanding is there's only a couple companies that can build and operate these, and we put that policy into this Pasco Service to get ahead of the curve and say, hey, we're gonna look at these on a case-by-case basis and approve them.
I don't know, we can come up with whatever fancy name we want to call for them, what it looks
I
like.
mean, we didn't make that up. It's a
Looks
state
like
law
to
that
me
was
is
passed.
code- Looks to me like it's code for packaged wastewater treatment plant that we connect your septic to. So what?
It's similar, but it would be developed at the same time. As a package plant, you can plug into it, plug out of it. This is sort of a system that a developer would put in for their entire neighborhood, and it would control the
Packaged
wastewater.
wastewater
essentially.
treatment plant.
Yeah, it is that, but it's nitrogen reducing, and it's a new type of technology. So it's different. I'm telling you, it's fundamentally different than a package plant. And this is a state law that was passed. I think it's like Senate Bill 980 or something like that 2 years ago. And you could read that, and I can give you some more information on those. But it's different. It really is.
6:45.
Is that what it is? 6:45. Okay, yeah, 6:45. So it's a new thing. It's not the same, and this is something we're trying to get ahead of. So it's not we're not making up anything related to that. Yeah.
I'm not saying you are.
I don't know. I might do this old school really quick and just point to the map. It's like fingers. But going back to the conversation on RDR and the locations of RDR, you have the area, the Shady Hills. Well, if you can see the mouse there, Shady Hills rural character area is right here. The little road piece that I talked about. Here's the Aaron Cutoff location. This is like Angus Valley and Dayflower in those areas here, and then you have one Res 1 territory east of Zephyr Hills and south of Zephyr Hills. So there's not a lot of RDR outside. Most of the RDR is rural character area and concentrated in northeast rural. But key point to make, though, I'm sorry. Key point to make is that within this, I lost my mouse again. There it is. In this area here, some of these neighborhoods are part of the rural neighborhood protection area, so they're in RDR as well.
Aren't we bringing water and sewer up Shady Hills Road?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't that an area we might want to think about providing sewer service to?
Mm-hmm. As a consequence of the upgrade, we are pulling back that project, we are pulling back the rural character area boundary off of Shady Hills Road to allow for the corridor to participate in that sewer service more effectively.
Okay.
Can I-
Or utility service, not necessarily sewer service. But
Terry, I want to revisit 2.4 now that we've just had that conversation. So I'm still not sure we got it right, because even number 2, it says lands with a minimum density of 1 dwelling unit per acre designated as RDR. Well, you just now told me that RDR goes up to 2.9. And if it's a 2.9, is that sprawl?
no,
So
not according to the
there's two problems. One is
traditional
that
parameters of the
it's
county's
not-
understanding of
Not
sprawl.
all land designated RDR is at 1 dwelling unit per acre. I guess I got a problem with the language, it says lands with a minimum density of 1 dwelling unit per acre designated RDR. Well, if it's RDR, the minimum density is not 1 dwelling unit per acre.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, we could do that.
But more importantly, this isn't a policy about sprawl, and RDR has some densities that are not sprawl.
Right, and I think that's where, so in our current comprehensive plan, this goes back to how it's been understood over the years. Res 1 is considered sprawl density outside of northeast rural. But because it's a max at that point, anything greater than 1 is not sprawl. So if somebody were to come in at 1.7, for example, it would not traditionally be understood as sprawl density.
I understand how this happened, okay, but the language is not accurate though, because I understand that you wanna limit sprawl when it's 1 dwelling unit per acre or less.
How am I doing that if I allow them to build a subdivision with a distributed wastewater treatment unit?
But you, let me finish my thought, please, okay? But you've thrown RDR into the mix. Okay, and RDR is not, you've just told me when it's greater than 1, it's not sprawl.
Yes.
So either you need to take it out of the mix, or I don't know what you need to do, but you need to fix your language, because it doesn't belong in this.
Terry, maybe you need to break
You're on.
RDR apart and have two different rules for it then when the density differs.
Are you referring to
Trying to
2.4,
understand
the
what's
language of 2?
What's the point? We're trying to limit sprawl, whatever evil sprawl is, and we're gonna do it by holding them hostages with utilities. But at the same time, we're going to allow you to develop at 1 dwelling unit per acre, and you can put in the distributed wastewater treatment unit. So have I limited any sprawl? I haven't done anything.
Well, I think.
So what's the point?
But isn't the distributed unit, whatever it's called, specific to the, was it the Wiki Watch or something or other? The basin, whatever that basin is?
No.
Not that one? All right.
Well, maybe we shouldn't be allowing them to do that. I don't know the answer to that question. My point is that even Terry admits that there's densities in the RDR that are not sprawl. And he's thrown it into a policy related to sprawl. So,
Again, we have to look at the actual density for existing development patterns. But if you're
but
proposing
again,
something new,
this is the planning
then,
commission, and sometimes we get speculative RDRs that come in here.
right.
Somebody comes in with a speculative RDR, this policy would say, as written, that it couldn't have public wastewater, or that I should limit public wastewater to it.
Well, we don't really bring in speculative residential future land use amendments. They're usually identifying the density. They're telling us what they want to build.
Usually only in
You're
PD.
telling me that somebody doesn't just come in and just ask for RDR?
I mean, people come in and they ask for
There's
Res
people that come
6,
in and
for
just ask
example,
for
and we ask them.
RDR flu amendments,
Right, but when it is common practice.
without a rezoning, they just want a flu amendment.
Right, but we wouldn't advance them until they told us what are they
But
going
it's
to
not
do.
binding on, there's no legally binding, they may say, oh, I'll do,
And that's
They come in
that's
and they ask for
exactly
Res 9
been the
and say, I'm
problem.
gonna develop it 7 units to the acre, and we
Yeah.
say, oh, that's great.
That's exactly been the
Then they come
problem.
back 3 years later and they say, well, I've got an entitlement for 9 dwelling units to the acre, cause you gave me Res 9.
Yes, that's been the problem, an existing problem that we were trying to right-size in Pasco 2050. The way we've been handling it is typically, if somebody wants, townhomes, they're gonna jump all the way to Res 9. And maybe their density is 7.6, so we have them tell us, what's your actual density that you're proposing here? And they're like, well, we really wanna do 7.6. At that point, we typically control them on that density with the MPUD, thus bringing both items together to the local planning agency and to the
So
planning
what
commission.
happens when they get that comp plan amendment? They haven't come in for an MPUD simultaneously. And then they sell that land to somebody a few years later.
The deed restriction route has been used in the past as well.
Terry, I would argue you're gonna get more speculative applications for RDR now that you've raised the density of it. Because you're not gonna be able to say, we're not gonna permit any more of it, because you used to be able to say that because it was limited to 1 unit per acre, and you could say, that's sprawl, I don't want any more of it. But now that it's going up to 2.9, you can't say that anymore, so you're probably getting a bunch of applications for it, and they may be the speculative map amendments. So you're gonna have to encounter this question about whether you should have water and sewer in it. This policy, as written, appears to limit it.
Well, I mean, we've committed to providing clarified language on 2.4.2, given the debate and discussion here.
My point is that you also need to modify 2.4.
Yes.
That's all I was trying to say. Because it also has the same problem.
Yes. And we've committed to making strike-throughs on 2.4, the language of objective 2.4.
For the 3 units.
Okay, and there's also a similar problem in the water section, which is 1.4.
Yeah, the language is gonna have to follow parallel in those policies.
You know, there's a similar policy
Yes.
in water as well?
Right.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Same in solid waste.
okay.
Same in solid waste, did you say, Heidi?
Or wastewater. Yeah, wastewater.
Yeah.
You said solid waste. Okay. Any other questions?
It's not so much a question, but it just, want to make sure that nobody has an issue with it, because it's a significant change in policy for Northeast Rural. This one about the I-75,
Oh, yes.
I gotta find it. So,
1.1.14.
This is the one that's aimed at Evans 80.
basically says that if we provide water and sewer at that employment center, it can't be extended any further. Is that basically what it says?
Well, I think this is partially new. So this is new language. This is an attempt at addressing various commentary that has occurred at public hearings, and at workshops and open houses concerning potential utility extensions into Northeast Rural. So this is purely proposal at this point. So to the extent that we want to have a deep policy discussion on that, that's welcomed. And any adjustments that may be necessary for the county proposed by the LPA would be welcome as well. We
Is
just
the-
wanted to put the
is
conversation on the table.
Is the intent that if they develop their own system at that interchange, that it's not gonna be extended beyond the interchange? Is that what the purpose of this is?
That and or the potential of extending a water line, let's say from 52 south, 52 and 75, wherever the utilities are there, straight north up to that interchange. Assuming you built a line that went straight up to I-75 in Blanton, whatever that line, whatever territory and land that crosses, the agricultural lands would not, to the point that we were talking about earlier, would not change their flue suddenly and develop by connecting to those utility extensions. So both.
But they can use a distributed wastewater treatment unit and do it anyway. And there's nothing that says that they can't build a community water system, water supply system out here either. It just seems like we're trying to use utilities as a ways to limit growth, but we've got all these other things. Maybe the And I'm not questioning the wisdom or non-wisdom of the legislature by doing these things, but if we have to allow these other things, then what's the point of these policies? Because you can go right around them using the others. I'm just not sure utilities is a growth management tool. The withholding of utilities.
It's been the underpinning of a lot of policy associated with the urban
Well,
concentration.
it has until the legislature just said you can go.
Yeah.
The wisdom has been you can't have a package plant. Okay, well, you can have a distributed wastewater treatment unit, which is code for package plant, whatever you want to call it. Okay, that's the legislature saying, I don't care what the county says, you can go do this. So you can still develop out and away. That's why they did it. And so, given that they've done that, this tool of using utilities to limit growth has been taken away from you.
I'll say this, on the issue of distributed wastewater treatment units, they need to be remotely controlled, and as of right now, the utilities does not have the ability to remotely control or the knowledge to do so. So I think this is sort of like a, if we do have this, or if we can work with a developer to do this. And so also, there's this issue of if the DWTU is installed and it fails because it's not the standard, could we take the wastewater, could we treat it properly? So there's those issues with DWTUs. We don't foresee them being developed, and they're rare use cases, and they're not being developed across the state. And we don't currently have the ability to control them or to sort of manage them in that capacity. So just to answer your question about DWTUs, they're not necessarily a replacement to a package plant. It's a little more complicated because they require more connection to the utilities.
Just because somebody's using it today doesn't mean they won't.
That's true. That's why we're putting in our comprehensive plan.
They gave them the opportunity to use it. They're going to figure out how to use it.
So, these were already allowed. The recent Senate bill just allowed it to happen a little quicker. And so we're not
And they're
really
going to figure out how to use it.
Yeah.
That's why they did it.
So just a little bit about that. But yeah, we currently, they would, there's some sort of issue where they would have to be remotely controlled by the utilities. We don't have that technology or the know-how to do that. So there'd be sort of a program that would be in place to do that. So we're not right now equipped. So if there was one that wanted to come, we couldn't approve it at this time. There'd have to be a conversation with the developer about how to accommodate that request, which is why we're putting it in this Pasco serves to sort of get ahead of that.
May I ask a quick clarification question? To the extent that the legislature did pass the law that enabled the distributed package plants, whatever they're called, does that necessarily preclude the county from becoming, I suppose, more, well, I don't know if restrictive is the right word, because the state legislature has actually allowed this to happen in that location. We can't ban it from happening. But does that bar the county from actually continuing to direct development according to the tools that it has available to itself? Does it necessarily
The
preclude
absence
them?
of preemption, no, I don't know I haven't read the bill to know.
Okay. Well,
I'm just saying, you're trying to use our past policy, and these amended policies are still trying to use utilities as a growth limiting tool. But on the other hand, we're having to, whether we like it or not, because the legislature's authorized these DWTUs or whatever they're called, that's a way around all of this. And people will use the way around it if you're not going to provide it. So why not, it may not be feasible, economically feasible for somebody to connect and use county utilities. I'm just saying, I don't think we should be attempting to hold hold growth hostage by withholding utilities when there are now obvious ways around it. I think it's pointless. And again, I don't know why we would want to discourage anybody, regardless of what density they develop at, from connecting to a centralized utility system. Again, may not prove economically feasible right now with known technology, but these things change. This is, we're looking at a planning horizon out to 2050 right now. There's gonna be a lot of developments between now and then.
I suppose the other piece of the equation might include capital improvement programming. I mean, to the extent that the county will spend the dollars, multi-millions of dollars, to potentially extend utility lines, and do we want to send them here or there?
Well, we don't generally do that. We let the developers pay for them, and why would we want to stop a developer from doing it if that's what they want to do it, and they think they can sell their lots at whatever price it takes to pay for that?
Well,
Not on this topic, no.
It wasn't a very deep reaction. In fact, I didn't even know it was a bill until he said that earlier, that that's where it was coming from. So, sorry, I didn't know that.
Can we move on now, or are we gonna?
Yeah, I've made my statement, and
Yeah.
I'm telling you, just go consider it. You can put whatever you want in here, but I just don't see the point of it, that's all.
Terry, what's your feeling? What, is there a point in your mind?
well, specifically as it relates to I-75 and the County Road 41 area, I don't know that, I'm not a developer, I haven't done any pro forma costing or whatever to understand the economic implications, but just by looking at the map, it doesn't appear to me that there's enough land to, for a developer, let's say, to develop and pay for the extension of the utility from State Road 52 all the way north to County Road 41. That would be cost prohibitive to make that kind of extension. So to the extent that you want an interchange, a limited interchange, we don't have that many of them in the county. To the extent that we want that to develop as an employment generation node within the county because it's at one of these interchanges, the county could be looking at some point. I'm not saying they're doing that now. It's a matter of policy and decision. But to the extent that the county might extend utilities to create that capability at that interchange, at that point, we have to think about, what do you do with the land that's in between the Northeast Rural Territory, basically? And historically, it's been the case, for right or for wrong, but nevertheless, it's been the case that we won't extend utilities into Northeast Rural, one, because it's not the urban service area, it's the actual rural area, and two, all of these restrictions on densities less than Res 1 that we've been talking about this morning. So that would be my concern, that if there's a strong desire at some point in the future and there's a consortium that comes together to extend some kind of utility up to this node, this interchange, how do you preserve, if the county still wants to be preserving this, how do you preserve the agricultural character of Northeast Rural while these utilities pass through? That's just the philosophical question that we're trying to look at and provide an answer to. We're trying to plan for the future, that's the whole point. So we need to have some kind of an idea in hand for a potential eventuality.
Can I ask an unrelated question?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Terry, on the Northeast Rural policy, it's both in water and sewer, but there was a change added that there's an exception for, I'm looking at 1.1.13 B2. There's B1 talks about conservation subdivisions. B2 says zoning classification MPD in areas with a minimum density of 1 dwelling unit per acre in RDR. which I guess for Northeast Rural is accurate. It is one dwelling unit
One.
acre and,
Yeah.
okay. But then somebody added, and in areas with a maximum density of 60 U in STR, are there areas?
Yes.
Are there STR areas in,
There's 3 specific, I don't know if we have that map available again. We pointed out on the map. There's 3 current Res 6 converted into SDR in Pasco 2050 areas. If we can, can you zoom in on that, Hyatt? I don't want to put Patty on the spot.
you don't have to point them to me, I wasn't aware
Yeah,
that we had any STR.
There's 3. There's one at Blanton, which is kind of where the mouse is right there. Then there's one, okay, that's that one orange piece right there that you see. Then if you scoot the map to the east, yeah, and go north a little bit.
Is
There's that.
STR changing in any way in this comp plan? Remind me.
SDR is being capped in Northeast Rural at 6 because there's existing Res 6 in Northeast Rural. At those locations, they're just gonna keep the status quo.
In the rest of the county, it's going up though?
In the rest of the county, yeah, it's going between 3 and 18. So, we have been working with stakeholders to create what we call a backslide preventer. Silly language. But anyway, the idea is identify on the future land use map the existing flu density that people have today so that is their starting point going into the future, because you don't want to take
But
their
in Northeast
existing
Rural,
potential
it's capped
at 6.
because that's what it is today?
That's where they're sitting at today at Res 6. Key thing that I want to point out is that this is Lakuchi area, 301, 98. Not all of that. Today it's in Northeast Rural, all of it. But it's also in the East Market area. So in Pasco 2050, the Lakuchi area specifically is coming out of Northeast Rural because it belongs to a different market area. And there are redevelopment objectives related to Lakuchi that are not rural in scope. So, and the 301 corridor itself is also coming out of Northeast Rural because it's not, if you drive 301, the actual corridor itself is not rural in scope. But this orange piece right here, this SDR is in Northeast Rural. So that's gonna be one of the areas that are gonna be capped at 6 dwelling units per, because that's what they have today.
Okay. That answers my question, thank you.
Terry, we're gonna take a break for about 5 minutes, okay?
Yes, sir.
Looked at me like I was the decision. You had the gavel.
Coates, how are you, sir?
Doing well, how are you?
It's good to see you. I'm doing excellent.
Yeah, I had a meeting earlier this morning, so.
You're a busy man like you
Russian.
are. This is your full-time job.
Yeah, I get reminded of that all the time.
Planning commission,
Mhm.
workshop, 5-minute break, so
Me?
12 minutes, perfect time.
Oh. Yes, I do.
So for the conference, you were talking about renting 2 vehicles instead of 1, right? So, yeah, I'll just do 1.
Did he play with those boys yesterday?
You know, and do some
Oh, really?
Sundays and then find good shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if we're gonna do 2, then I could have picked up one of them, you know? I don't know what I'll do. If we'll just Uber from the airport, or we, you know. Doesn't make sense for me to rent a car for a day and then have to get it back to the airport. Yeah, so, but I'm pretty sure all the tours and stuff will, or pick up at the hotel, so.
Yeah, they arrange, they process.
I'm not too worried about that.
Checking out the last.
Me too, man. Yeah, me too. We booked that one, we booked the tour of the, UA campus as well, University of Arkansas campus. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I told her we were in for that, so we'll be there for that.
We're inviting David, people to make sure that we get some treats there.
Right
in the middle of, that's.
It is pretty close to Wednesday.
Yeah. So,
Is it like? Mr. Girardi, how's the golf going?
Eh, comes and goes.
Yeah, well, you have your moments, that's what you think
That's
about.
right,
You go to
exactly.
bed at night.
I don't know.
I had some weeks ago, I was out with Jack. Yeah, this guy was, playing with us and he was drunk.
Yeah.
So, we teed off at a quarter of 1 and we get off the course at 6:05. But I think that'll
That's why I can't stand playing in the afternoon anymore.
So he got into my head, no, the Jack, it was the Jack.
Yeah,
So, the guy comes up to me and he says, you and I are just the same, we both suck at golf. So I turned around to Jack and I said, this is your time. So I parked before finishing all this out.
Nice, perfect.
Yeah.
There you go.
He was too drunk to notice.
It's pretty
Hey
sad.
Chuck, how are you?
Okay, buddy. Pretty sad when you drop that early in the morning. That's kind of what be indicative of.
I was playing in a tournament 2 weekends ago. We teed off at 9 o'clock. And the guy in the group behind us couldn't stand up on
We
the
had a very circular conversation.
Yeah.
You got a problem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. Like,
feeling all right?
it is embarrassing, yeah.
Feel better?
Yeah, finally, I'm still, I think it's the allergies. I'm allergic to the budding oak trees. The pollen count is
It's been bad. It's been bad for all.
I struggled for a couple of months.
Yeah.
It's Zyrtec, but it doesn't do the job.
No?
Makes us sign it.
And I think it's moving a lot, that's my.
I hear it. Yeah, I hear it. It's like a,
You're saying
yeah, high pitch. Yeah, they might have, I had to have my house done recently, they cleaned out
Yeah, the ductwork.
all the ductwork and everything.
Just trying to reduce the line at the license plate office for your get out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what accumulates. Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, it's good to see you.
Exciting afternoon.
Oh, yeah. All right, all kinds of excitement.
We got tree protection.
not retroactive.
Negotiating it, so one of the $3,500.
Original one.
And the board doesn't want a cap because it's getting in line as a whole. Protect the trees. So now the TVA comes back, we'll take $10,000. Keep going, keep going.
Yeah, right. Brother.
World is so angry. Yeah, but it's yellow.
I know, I know.
That's the young folks.
Yeah, the actual project themselves, I don't. Yeah, they're the younger one, the younger one.
Well, every year.
Well, we had 60 years to get in there. Sound like they're reading the fourth term. To get out. No. No doubt. Absolutely. I remember those.
Market's down another 0.75%.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I drove.
They didn't respond very well to Jerome Powell yesterday.
Georgia. In Georgia, yeah. Well, it's a little.
I didn't know
Spot
that
in the
there was
road.
no other result you could actually
Yeah,
expect. I'm not a big fan of Jerome Powell, but
same.
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I don't think the keeping interest rates was as steady, was a surprise.
Right. He was just a little more hawkish in his tone than people expected, I
Yeah,
guess.
of course, they're each gonna take their political digs at each other, but it's the,
When you wanna go back and touch this?
Yeah.
I think the market was reacting more to
Girls on the line.
buying gas fields.
Yeah.
Cover that now.
Whatever you, whatever you decide.
Okay.
Blowing up the world's oil supply out there, yeah.
What are you gonna do when you're done?
Okay, I guess we'll get started again. I understand that we have, the person that we need to speak to about the stormwater question online.
Yes, stormwater is available online.
Do you wanna just take care of that now?
Yeah, if we can repeat the question for them.
Okay, John? Wanna
Just
speak
wanted to
that?
know.
Who do we have
Go back
online?
to the policy on, I thought we had resolved this and that we were gonna evaluate its efficacy, but
Yeah, we're just gonna change the language to evaluate.
Is that right?
Yes.
So we don't have any questions yet? Okay.
I mean, unless you have
That's
other
fine,
questions
let's
about
just
other
move on
policies.
then.
Are there, I mean, we're done with, oh, this is the table that we were referring to earlier. No, not that one. That's not it. I'm sorry.
It's one, oh, first page.
Yes. Page 6.
Otherwise,
Page 6.
There it is. There was a question earlier about the proximities and how do you require, what's that distance proximity requirement?
Okay, did we come up with language to consider?
This is existing in the comp plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
John, did you have any questions?
no.
Okay. We can move on then.
We're done with
That's
our
it?
presentation. We're done with our presentation. If there's any other questions from the LPA.
Any other questions from anyone?
My only thing, and didn't pay too much attention to the slide and it was kind of ended quickly, was your last slide, was that definitions?
Yes.
Can you just pop that slide back up real quick? So, when this was on the screen really briefly, I was just wondering what certifications were and why conditional uses weren't added to development permit.
I think you guys took that from statute, right?
Yeah, we did.
This would have it, it wouldn't hurt that.
Well, isn't a conditional use a zoning permit?
It is, so it's a special exception too, but.
Yeah.
I was
So
just,
we got this straight from the statute.
Speaking Mike.
Yeah, sorry. What, go ahead. Leah.
oh,
What
I
is
was
your-
just thinking that maybe conditional use needed to be added because
Yeah, we can
you
add
call
it.
out special exception
Yeah.
and variances, which are all kind of zoning permits, so,
Yeah.
I was just wondering if that needed to be added.
Yeah, we can add it.
That was my only comment.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Questions?
No, I would like to point out, just real quick, in reading the definition of DWTU, that doesn't sound like a packaged treatment plant. That sounds like an aerobic treatment unit, which is remotely controlled. Which I don't care, neither here nor there.
So I've got a larger question or comment that is really related to kind of multiple, so water, wastewater, and solid waste potentially, and it doesn't necessarily fit within the comp plan, but it's more a question of how we account for PFAS, for example, or emerging chemicals that have, potential to be significantly costly to us. So is that just kind of, is that regulatory criteria that's driven, or how are we looking at emerging contaminants, PFAS, for example, taking that, which is gonna have a huge impact on the cost of utility operations going forward?
Well, the subject matter experts.
Cool.
My understanding is we're developing testing for PFAS and they're developing contaminants in the wastewater, and this is a regulatory requirement. Yeah, so that's my understanding of it.
So based on federal criteria, because there is
State.
no,
I think it's a state or no, actually it's federal. Yeah, this is EPA. Yeah, yes, sir.
okay, because there is no, all the state criteria is provisional at this point, so it's only, it's very limited as an enforceability.
Yeah, my understanding is we're getting into the point where we can test those things. We currently aren't testing for PFAS in the wastewater, but we do want to start doing that. So
Is that something that's kind of in your plans going forward?
Yes.
Okay.
yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, because obviously you have appreciation for how huge of a cost that might be.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're having those discussions internally at this point. So
Yeah, and the same applies for wastewater and solid waste,
yeah.
biosolids, everything.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Tim Treschler, I'm the Senior Program Manager for Solid Waste.
Hey, Tim.
Solid Waste is currently monitoring the regulatory environment for PFAS. There are currently no specific regulations that impact us,
Right.
but we are continuing to stay apprised of what the federal government and then the state, FDEP's stance will be.
Okay. All right, what's next? That's it?
What is,
Okay.
has any decision been made on workshop schedules moving forward, or?
So we're currently looking at April 9 and April 16. Is that it?
April 9th only in the afternoon.
April 9 only in the afternoon. And
4/16, yeah, because it's next Thursday.
yeah.
We'll do morning and afternoon.
Okay, so normally the planning commission schedule would be a little bit more spaced out in April, but because of renovations and whatnot happening in Dade City, the April 2nd meeting got bumped to April 9, so now we have back-to-back weeks. But on April 9, it will be only in the afternoon. And then April 16, we're planning for a morning workshop and plus overtime if we need it for the afternoon. And then we are, according to Patty, just for the record, we're waiting for confirmation from 2 more members to have that quorum.
Yes, and as soon as I get those, then I can get, what
Yeah.
Hyatt will get
Yeah.
those leads out.
So tentatively, the April 9 and 16 meetings will be on Pasco Moves, the transportation element.
Terry, could you repeat the April 9th time that you were?
Afternoon session.
Okay.
And yeah, the April 9 and April 16 workshops are tentatively for Pasco Moves.
And what, the April 9th is, what's the subject on April 9th?
Pasco Moves, the transportation element.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do 2 workshops on that element.
Yeah, we'll be looking at, on the first workshop, it's an introduction to the vision roads and the preservation table. So it'll be a show by Nick Curran, county engineer. And then understanding the map and what's happening in the map, then we're gonna, at the next session, talk policies.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing, if there's nothing else for this
What,
session.
is there like a grand overall schedule, like where we're trying to get? I know I heard Hyatt, you referred to earlier that, yeah, we're on a short time frame, which all of a sudden this thing sat around for 6 months and now all of a sudden we're gonna be pushed to, here, we gotta cram a bunch of workshops in and forget about your regular workload and stuff, but what are we trying to work towards?
So the tentative schedule at this point is workshopping, as I mentioned, moves, invests, partners, and grows over the next 3 months. So in April, it's going to focus on transportation. In May, we're going to be looking at some workshops for invests and partners, as well as grows. So the Board of County Commissioners has a workshop at the end of May, so we'll be looking at fitting those in there. Revisions that may be happening, say in serves and whatever we might talk about in the next workshops, those will be presented along the way to verify that and demonstrate that whatever changes the LPA has asked for, we're done, basically. Oh, yes, and then the tentative schedule, of course, after that, after the workshops, we'll be bringing the full comprehensive plan to the local planning agency in June, with potential transmittal by the Board of County Commissioners in July, and eventual adoption August, September.
David, have our SB 180 issues been resolved?
We're still evaluating that. We have some reason to believe that the Department of Commerce may have changed their position since the City of Ocoee lawsuit, but we're still trying to verify that.
But there was nothing significant in the legislature?
Legislature did not amend Senate Bill 180.
Okay, that's what I was getting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anything else? My motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second.
Third, fourth?
favor?
Aye.
Done.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Thank
Slow
you.
aye.
That's one of my favorite songs.
Is it?
I catch
You want me to keep
myself
singing?
doing that all the time, too. Yes, I do. I like that voice. Dean Martin. No.
Okay. Yeah, that you did, and I was looking for it, I couldn't find it.